Welcome to Live a Life. This is the OPPO Find X3 Pro, the latest flagship device from OPPO. I've been using this phone for quite some time now, and it screams out as a flagship device in every aspect of the phone. It has the most cutting-edge piece of hardware, together with great software, giving a pleasurable user experience. But can it compete with other flagship devices in the market? Let's find out right now. First, let's take the specs out of the way. The OPPO Find X3 Pro comes with a huge 6.7 inches Quad HD Plus 120Hz dynamic refresh rate AMOLED curved display with HDR10 Plus support. The Snapdragon 888, the most advanced chipset to date, complements with a 12GB of RAM for smooth user experience, a 256GB of fast UFS 3.1 storage, and top everything up with a 4500 mAh battery with 65 watts fast charging support. As a flagship device, it is certain to pack the most out of everything. As you can see, you paid top dollars for the best of the best. The most apparent thing about this phone is the build quality. The Find X3 Pro is arguably one of the most attractive flagship phones out there, with a reflective mirror glass finish on the back, together with a semi-curved glass on the front, together creating a very smooth and seamless design. Other than attracting prints and smudges, it is absolutely gorgeous. However, if you hate the glossy finish, you can opt for the alternative blue color, which has a frosted material instead. One thing to note is this camera bump on the back. I can't deny that this really resembles the iPhone 12 Pro Max signature Boba T camera module, but you have to give the X3 Pro some credit. The module is curved seamlessly together with the glass back, creating a very smooth feeling from edge to edge. It is unheard of on any phones in the market right now, and this contributes a ton to the overall design of the Find X3 Pro. The phone feels really good in hand. It has no sharp edges all around except for this little volume rocker and power button. However, it feels slightly slippery due to smooth design, so I would recommend a case. There is one included inside the box. It is totally usable, but one thing I found a little annoying is when the lens gets smudged, there's no way you can wipe it without taking off the case because the whole design. Maybe one big cutout will be better. Looking down at the bottom, you see a classic USB-C charger together with dual speaker and a SIM tray, with no expandable storage here. The display of the Find X3 Pro is absolutely phenomenal. You can tell instantly that this is a very great AMOLED panel. Quad HD Plus together with 120Hz is a match made in heaven. This thing flies through everything shown on the screen, ranging from gaming to everyday use. It also comes with the HDR10 Plus support for those high dynamic range content. It also supports a 10-bit format, displaying over a billion colors. It is here for the 10-bit photos taken from this camera on the back, which we will get onto it later. The screen has a peak brightness on the 1300 nit, which is plenty bright for day-to-day use. It is usable under the sun and gets pretty dim at night, making the Find X3 Pro an almost excellent media consumption device. Almost. The stereo speaker, it's loud and decent dynamic, but it's not balanced. The main speaker is way louder than the one on the earpiece, which is expected, but it should be at least a little more balanced. If you cover the earpiece, the sound doesn't feel any softer, but at the end of the day, the stereo speaker is a lot better than mono anyway. The screen viewing angle is excellent. It's definitely a flagship level AMOLED display, so there's no tint shift anywhere to be seen. The Find X3 Pro comes with a good old ColorOS 11.2 based on the latest Android 11. The overall design of the UI leans towards a more rectangular shape. I wouldn't say that they're as clean as the stock Android, but it feels a little more playful and casual, which I'm not really a big fan of. It's totally usable, don't get me wrong, but definitely not as pleasurable as something like a One UI or Oxygen OS. It feels pretty lightweight and snappy for the most part, and there is a decent amount of bloatware to be seen, and worse yet, you can't just uninstall it on your own, and most of the time you won't even use those things. One thing that I really have to mention is the live wallpaper collection provided by the phone. They are gorgeous and really take advantage of this beautiful display. Although I know this drains the battery really fast, I still prefer to have the live wallpaper on at all times for the style point. There's one thing I got to complain about this phone is the haptic. The haptic is really bad compared to the S21, OnePlus 9 Pro, Xiaomi, or even POCO. This is definitely way below its class. Every time the haptic kicks in, it feels like there's a loose spring inside of the phone. There's not much to talk about in terms of performance since it is a given looking at the spec. Housing a Snapdragon 888 with a whopping 12GB of RAM, this beast checks every box for a fast phone. We stack this phone with the almighty Genshin Impact, one of the most power-hungry games for this time, and it runs smoothly with 60 FPS constant on the highest settings. But the phones get pretty hot after like 20 minutes of gaming session, which tends to be the problem for the Snapdragon 888, because this problem can be found on other phones as well. Let's hope the new flagship chipset can do a better job at heat management. Other than that, the phone can manage usual tasks with ease, ranging from watching 4K content to multitasking. Everything is silky smooth with no starter to be seen. This phone comes with a 4500 mAh battery, which is average for 2021 phones. So the battery performance is pretty much average. The 4500 mAh lasted a day of use, but this is 2021 and flagship phones supposed to be close to 5000. Personally, I feel like batteries shouldn't be something you have to worry about when you have a longer than usual day. But charging is really something else. It is a 65 watt fast charge. It is super fast. Just plug in and forget about it for a moment and get back and it's fully charged. It is super impressive. Next up is for the main course of this phone, which is camera. We actually did a camera review for a couple weeks back, which you can check out in the link in the description. Spoiler alert, it is pretty good. The Find X3 Pro features an IMX766 sensor, which is not a flagship sensor. It is a step below, but the image you get is somehow pretty close to what you get from a flagship sensor from S21 Ultra and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Maybe not right at that level, but it's close enough. So you see, the ultra-wide camera uses the same sensor as the main camera, and strangely it's not just as good. It doesn't feel different from other ultra-wide on the other flagships. It felt like a one step behind from the main sensor, maybe because of the lens glass. And about the microscope camera, it's definitely fun to use. I use it more often than I initially thought I would, but it's still pretty gimmicky, but it's a fun gimmick for sure. It's good to have, but definitely not something you need. Okay, for the 10-bit part, it is a good 10-bit display and camera. But is there any extra use for the phone to do so? I don't think so. You can shoot a 10-bit photo with this camera, edit it on a 10-bit display on this phone, but when you post it on a social media, there's literally no social media that supports 10-bit photos. Furthermore, there is so few phones that feature a 10-bit display. It is a closed loop system. You can shoot, edit, and view on your phones, and that's it. But if you have a group of friends who also use Find X3 Pro, so that's a different story. In the near future maybe, more phones are going to use 10-bit displays and more platforms are going to adapt to it. So hang tight, it's coming. So, what do you think about the phone? Do you think it's the best flagship in the market right now? Or what phone do you think is a better buy than the OPPO Find X3 Pro? Comment down below. And don't forget to press like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon for more contents like this in the future. That's about it for now. See you guys next time. Stay safe.